For most people, bugs are little more than an annoyance. A few ants in the kitchen, a couple of flies around the trash can, maybe a spider hiding in the corner of a room. But for farmers, homesteaders, and livestock owners, pests can become something far more serious. They can destroy feed supplies, spread disease, stress animals, contaminate storage areas, and quietly drain thousands of dollars from an operation without anyone realizing it until the damage is already done. Every year, insects cause enormous losses across the agricultural world. Grain weevils can turn valuable feed into waste. Fleas can make life miserable for animals and humans alike. Chicken coop mites can weaken entire flocks. Roaches can contaminate food storage areas. And some infestations become so severe that people find themselves spending hundreds or even thousands of dollars on extermination treatments that only seem to work temporarily. For decades, the answer promoted by most of the pest control industry has been remarkably similar. When bugs appear, buy a spray. If the spray does not work, buy a stronger spray. If the stronger spray fails, call an exterminator. And if the pests return, repeat the process all over again. Yet hidden behind the shelves of modern pest control products is a substance so old that it predates humanity itself. A substance that some farmers have trusted for generations. A substance that costs only a few dollars. And a substance that many people claim can help control some of the most common pests found around farms, livestock operations, and homes. It is called Diatomaceous Earth. At first glance, there is nothing impressive about it. No bright packaging. No flashy marketing. No futuristic technology. It looks like ordinary white powder. In fact, many people would probably mistake it for flour or chalk dust if they saw it sitting in an unlabeled container. But appearances can be deceptive, because what looks like harmless powder may actually be one of the most fascinating natural pest control tools ever discovered. And the story behind it begins millions of years before the first farmer planted a crop or raised a single animal. Long before cattle grazed across open pastures, long before chickens scratched through farmyards, and long before humans built homes, there existed vast bodies of water filled with microscopic organisms known as diatoms. These tiny creatures were almost unimaginably small, invisible to the naked eye. They floated through oceans, lakes, and rivers around the world. Yet despite their size, they possess an extraordinary characteristic. Each diatom was protected by a hard outer shell made primarily of silica. When these organisms died, their shells did not simply disappear. Instead, they accumulated layer after layer on the bottoms of ancient waterways. Over immense stretches of time, countless billions of these microscopic remains formed thick deposits that would eventually become what we now call diatomaceous earth. For millions of years, these deposits remained buried beneath the surface. Then humans discovered them. What they found seemed unremarkable at first. Soft white material that could easily be crushed into powder. Yet scientists eventually realized that this powder possessed unique physical properties, unlike almost anything else found in nature. Under a microscope, the story becomes much more interesting. What appears smooth and harmless to human skin reveals itself as a landscape of microscopic structures. Tiny fragments with sharp edges, intricate shapes, and highly absorbent surfaces. This discovery would eventually lead people to explore uses that range from filtration systems to agriculture and pest control. And that is where things start becoming especially relevant for livestock owners. Imagine operating a poultry farm. Everything appears normal at first. The birds are eating. They are drinking. Production seems healthy. Then gradually, problems begin to appear. Egg production drops. Birds become stressed. Feathers look rough. Some chickens appear restless during the night. The cause may not be obvious immediately, but hidden within the coop could be an army of tiny parasites feeding on the flock. Chicken coop mites are among the most frustrating pests faced by poultry owners. They hide in cracks, crevices, nesting boxes, and structural gaps during the day. Then they emerge to feed. For small flock owners, these pests can become a nightmare. For larger operations, the financial consequences can be substantial. This is one reason many poultry keepers began experimenting with diatomaceous earth years ago. Not because it promised miracles, not because it was marketed as a magical solution, but because they were searching for alternatives. The same story plays out across countless barns and feed storage facilities. Consider grain weevils. At first, everything looks perfectly normal. Bags of grain appear untouched. Feed bins seem secure. Then one day, someone notices movement. Tiny insects. More than expected. Then even more. Before long, valuable feed supplies may become contaminated. Grain weevils are particularly frustrating because they often remain unnoticed until populations have already expanded significantly. For livestock owners, that means more than simple inconvenience. It means wasted resources. It means financial losses. And it means additional stress on daily operations. This constant battle against pests has created an enormous market for chemical treatments. Today, homeowners and farmers are surrounded by products promising instant results. Kill roaches overnight. Eliminate fleas immediately. End infestations once and for all. The promises are appealing. Who would not want a quick solution? Yet experienced farmers often understand something important. Fast solutions are not always permanent solutions. In many situations, pest management becomes a cycle rather than a one-time event. The bugs disappear. Then they return. Another treatment follows. The bugs disappear again. Then they return again. Over time, people start asking a simple question. Is there another way? That question has driven growing interest in natural pest control methods. Not because everyone wants to eliminate chemical products entirely. Not because every natural method works. But because many people are interested in reducing dependence on repeated chemical applications whenever possible. This interest has helped bring Diatomaceous Earth back into the spotlight, especially among homesteaders, especially among livestock owners, and especially among people searching for practical, low-cost solutions. Yet despite its growing popularity, Diatomaceous Earth remains widely misunderstood. Many people hear about it for the first time through online videos or social media posts that make extraordinary claims. Some describe it as a miracle powder. Others dismiss it completely. The reality, as is often the case, lies somewhere in between. And understanding that reality requires looking closely at how this ancient material actually interacts with insects. Because despite what some advertisements might suggest, Diatomaceous Earth is not a poison in the traditional sense. It does not work the way many chemical insecticides work. It does not rely on complex synthetic compounds. And it does not immediately wipe out every bug the moment contact occurs. Instead, its effectiveness comes from something much more surprising, something rooted in physics rather than chemistry. And once people understand this difference, they often begin viewing pest control in an entirely new way. The explanation starts under a microscope. Scientists examining Diatomaceous Earth noticed that the particles possess highly absorbent qualities. Combined with their microscopic structure, these characteristics create a unique interaction when certain insects come into contact with the powder. Rather than poisoning pests through ingestion alone, the material can affect the protective outer layer that helps insects retain moisture. Over time, this process can lead to dehydration. The result is very different from the dramatic knockdown effect often associated with chemical sprays. And that difference explains both the strengths and limitations of Diatomaceous Earth. Because while many people are attracted to the idea of natural pest control, understanding what this powder can and cannot do is absolutely essential. In fact, one of the biggest reasons some people become disappointed with Diatomaceous Earth is that they expect instant results. But instant results are rarely part of the story. The real story is far more interesting, and in many ways, far more powerful. Because once farmers began learning how to use this ancient powder properly, they discovered applications that stretched far beyond a single pest problem. They began using it in barns, in feed storage areas, around poultry housing, near livestock bedding, inside homestead structures, and in places where conventional pest control methods were becoming increasingly expensive. Yet just when Diatomaceous Earth seemed poised to become the ultimate answer, another question emerged. If this material has existed for generations, if farmers continue using it, if researchers have studied it extensively, then why do so many people still know almost nothing about it? And perhaps even more importantly, what is the one mistake that causes thousands of people to believe Diatomaceous Earth does not work at all? We'll uncover that answer next. To understand why some people swear by Diatomaceous Earth, while others dismiss it entirely, It is important to look beyond the headlines and internet claims and focus on what actually happens when this ancient powder is put to work, because this is where the story becomes far more interesting. For years, pest control products have conditioned people to expect immediate results. Spray a chemical, and within minutes insects begin to die. That rapid response creates a powerful impression. People can see the effect with their own eyes, and that visibility reinforces a belief that the product is working. Diatomaceous Earth does not operate that way. And this difference alone explains why so many first-time users walk away disappointed. Imagine someone discovers a flea infestation in their home or barn. They hear about Diatomaceous Earth online, purchase a bag, apply it once, and then check for results a few hours later. The fleas are still there. The person concludes that the powder is useless. What they fail to realize is that they are judging it according to expectations created by an entirely different category of pest control products. Diatomaceous Earth is not designed to deliver an instant knockout punch. Instead, it works gradually. And for many pests, that distinction matters. This becomes especially important when dealing with fleas. Anyone who has battled fleas knows how frustrating they can be. These tiny parasites reproduce rapidly, hide in difficult-to-reach places, and seem capable of returning just when you think the problem has been solved. For livestock owners, flea infestations can create discomfort for animals and additional management challenges. For homeowners, fleas can quickly transform a peaceful environment into a constant source of irritation. This is one reason Diatomaceous Earth became popular among people searching for flea treatment options for carpets, bedding areas, and animal housing. The appeal was obvious. A natural insecticide, no strong chemical odors, a relatively low cost, and a reputation for helping manage persistent pest problems. But fleas are only one chapter in a much larger story. Consider roaches. Few insects generate as much disgust as cockroaches. Their ability to survive in difficult conditions has become legendary. They invade food storage areas, contaminate surfaces, and often seem impossible to eliminate completely. When homeowners discover roaches, panic frequently follows. The search begins immediately. Roach powder, roach bait, chemical sprays, professional exterminators, anything that promises relief. Yet despite the enormous number of products available, roaches continue thriving in cities, farms, warehouses, and homes around the world. This reality has encouraged many people to explore alternatives. Some have turned to Diatomaceous Earth as part of broader pest management strategies, applying it in areas where roaches travel and hide. Again, the key word is strategy, because one of the most common misconceptions surrounding pest control is the belief that any single product can solve every problem by itself. In reality, successful pest management usually involves multiple approaches working together. Cleanliness, moisture control, entry point reduction, proper storage practices, and when appropriate, targeted treatments. The most experienced livestock owners understand this principle well. They know that preventing infestations is often easier than eliminating them. And nowhere is this lesson more obvious than in feed storage. Every livestock operation depends on feed. Whether raising chickens, goats, sheep, cattle, or other animals, feed represents one of the largest ongoing expenses. Protecting that investment is critical. Unfortunately, insects have other plans. Grain weevils, beetles, and various storage pests can quietly invade feed supplies and multiply before anyone notices. A small problem becomes a larger problem. A larger problem becomes an expensive problem. This is one reason many homesteaders and farmers became interested in using food-grade diatomaceous earth around feed storage systems. The key word there is food-grade, because this distinction may be the single most important piece of information anyone can learn about diatomaceous earth. And it is also the source of countless misunderstandings. Not all diatomaceous earth products are the same. At first glance, two bags may appear nearly identical. Both contain white powder. Both contain fossilized diatoms. Both carry the same name. Yet one may be appropriate for agricultural and pest control applications, while the other serves an entirely different purpose. This brings us to one of the most critical topics in the entire discussion: food grade versus pool grade. The difference sounds simple, but misunderstanding it can lead to disappointment, misuse, and confusion. Food-grade diatomaceous earth is processed differently and commonly marketed for agricultural and pest control purposes. Pool-grade diatomaceous earth, on the other hand, is intended primarily for swimming pool filtration systems. Unfortunately, some people discover diatomaceous earth online, rush to purchase it, and never take the time to understand which product they actually need. Then problems begin. Improper applications, unrealistic expectations, poor results, and eventually the conclusion that diatomaceous earth is ineffective. In many cases, the issue is not the material itself. The issue is that people skip the education process. This pattern appears repeatedly throughout agriculture. Whether discussing livestock nutrition, pasture management, breeding programs, or pest control, success often depends less on finding magical solutions and more on understanding how tools should be used. And that brings us to another fascinating aspect of the story. The people who have embraced diatomaceous earth most consistently are often not large corporations or heavily marketed brands. Instead, its strongest supporters frequently come from farming communities, homesteaders, and individuals who prioritize practical results over advertising claims. Among these groups, diatomaceous earth has developed something of a reputation as a traditional solution that refuses to disappear. Generation after generation continues using it, not because it solves every problem, but because they have seen situations where it provides value. This reputation has even led to frequent discussions about Amish pest control practices and other traditional farming methods. Whether discussing Amish communities, homesteaders, or small-scale livestock owners, a common theme often emerges: simplicity, practicality, efficiency, and a preference for solutions that have stood the test of time. These values help explain why diatomaceous earth continues attracting attention despite the constant arrival of newer products. But even with all these advantages, an uncomfortable question remains. If diatomaceous earth is inexpensive, if it has been around for generations, if countless farmers continue using it, why has it not completely replaced conventional pest control products? The answer reveals an important truth. No pest control solution is perfect, and diatomaceous earth is no exception. One of its greatest strengths is also one of its greatest limitations, because its effectiveness often depends on conditions. Moisture, for example, plays a major role. When dry, diatomaceous earth can function as intended. When wet, its effectiveness may be significantly reduced until conditions improve. This reality surprises many people. They imagine a powder that works under every circumstance. Instead, they discover a tool that performs best when used correctly. This distinction may sound minor, but it changes everything. The most successful users understand the environment they are working in. They understand pest behavior. They understand application methods. And most importantly, they understand that diatomaceous earth is not magic. It is a tool, a potentially useful tool, but still a tool. And like any tool, results depend heavily on how it is used. This brings us to bedbugs. Few pest infestations create as much anxiety as bedbugs. Their reputation alone is enough to make people lose sleep. Stories of difficult infestations spread quickly, fueling fears and driving demand for solutions. As a result, countless products have entered the market claiming to kill bedbugs. Some work better than others. Some fail entirely. And many homeowners find themselves trapped in a cycle of repeated treatments. This is one reason diatomaceous earth gained attention as a bedbug powder option. Its reputation spread through online forums, pest control discussions, and word of mouth. Yet, once again, the same lesson appears. Success often depends on realistic expectations. People searching for instant miracles frequently become frustrated. People who understand long-term pest management strategies tend to view the product differently. And that difference in perspective changes everything. The same principle applies to silverfish. These small insects rarely receive as much attention as roaches or bedbugs, yet they can become persistent nuisances in storage areas, basements, and buildings where moisture levels create favorable conditions. For people dealing with silverfish, the appeal of a natural pest control option is obvious. No complicated equipment, no expensive contracts, no constant reapplication of harsh chemicals, just a straightforward product with a long history of use. But even here, expectations matter. Because the biggest misunderstanding surrounding Diatomaceous Earth is not about what it can do. It is about what people expect it to do. And that misunderstanding has shaped public perception for decades. Some people treat it as a miracle cure. Others dismiss it as worthless. The truth exists somewhere between those extremes. And understanding that truth leads directly to the biggest controversy surrounding this ancient powder. A controversy that has fueled debates among homeowners, farmers, pest control professionals, and online communities for years. Why do some people claim Diatomaceous Earth is one of the best natural pest control tools ever discovered? And why do others insist it is overrated? The answer lies at the center of the mystery. And once you hear it, you may never look at pest control the same way again. The debate surrounding Diatomaceous Earth has lasted for years. On one side are people who describe it as one of the most useful natural pest control tools they have ever used. They point to successful experiences dealing with fleas, roaches, grain weevils, chicken coop mites, and other common pests. They appreciate its simplicity, affordability, and long history of use. On the other side are critics who argue that the claims surrounding Diatomaceous Earth are often exaggerated. They point to situations where users expected dramatic results and ended up disappointed. They emphasize that severe infestations may require additional measures, and that no single product can solve every pest problem. Interestingly, both sides are often describing real experiences. The difference is not necessarily the powder itself. The difference is usually the situation. And once it becomes clear, the mystery surrounding Diatomaceous Earth begins to unravel. Consider two homeowners. The first discovers a few roaches appearing around a garage and storage area. The infestation is relatively small. The environment is dry. Food sources are limited. Preventive measures are already in place. The second homeowner is facing a large infestation that has been growing for months. Food debris is abundant. Moisture problems exist throughout the property. Insects have access to numerous hiding places. If both individuals use the exact same product, will they experience identical results? Probably not. The first person may see meaningful improvement. The second may find that the powder alone is not enough to address the scale of the problem. Yet, both people will likely share their experiences online. One will praise the product. The other will criticize it. Neither person is necessarily wrong. They are simply describing different circumstances. This principle applies to nearly every aspect of livestock management. Farmers understand that context matters. A feed program that works beautifully on one farm may require adjustments on another. A pasture management system that thrives in one climate may struggle in a different region. A livestock breed that excels under certain conditions may underperform elsewhere. Success often depends on understanding the environment rather than searching for universal solutions. Diatomaceous Earth is no different, and this realization leads directly to one of the biggest mistakes people make when evaluating pest control products. They focus entirely on the product. They ignore the system. Experienced livestock owners rarely make this mistake. When pests appear in a chicken coop, they do not simply ask which powder to buy. They ask larger questions. Why did the infestation develop? What conditions allowed it to thrive? Where are pests hiding? How can the environment be improved? How can future outbreaks be prevented? These questions often produce far more valuable answers than any single treatment ever could, because pest control is ultimately about management, not magic. And once people adopt this mindset, Diatomaceous Earth starts making much more sense. Instead of viewing it as a miracle cure, they begin viewing it as one component within a broader strategy, a tool, a resource, a potentially useful addition to a larger system. This perspective explains why homesteaders often speak positively about it. Many homestead owners naturally think in systems. They pay attention to feed storage, animal housing, ventilation, cleanliness, moisture control, and prevention. Within that framework, a product like Diatomaceous Earth can fit naturally. But there's another reason this ancient powder continues attracting attention, and it has nothing to do with insects. It has to do with economics. Because every year, homeowners and farmers spend enormous amounts of money fighting pests. The global pest control industry generates billions of dollars annually. professional services, chemical treatments, monitoring systems, specialized equipment, and recurring contracts. For severe infestations, many of these services provide tremendous value. Yet for smaller problems, people often begin asking an obvious question. Do I really need to spend this much? That question has become increasingly important as costs continue rising across nearly every area of life. Feed costs rise. Fuel costs rise. Equipment costs rise. Labor costs rise. As a result, farmers and homeowners alike have become more interested in practical, cost-effective solutions. This is where the idea of a $4 pest control option becomes so appealing. The notion that an inexpensive natural material might help address certain pest problems captures attention immediately. After all, who would not be curious? A product that has existed for generations. A product used by farmers. A product available at a relatively low cost. And a product that continues generating discussion decades after its discovery. The story practically tells itself. But perhaps the most fascinating part of all is that Diatomaceous Earth has survived in the marketplace without the kind of advertising budgets enjoyed by many modern pest control products. It has endured largely through word of mouth, through recommendations, through farming communities, through homesteaders, through livestock owners sharing experiences, and through people who continue finding value in it. That kind of longevity is difficult to ignore. Products come and go every year. New formulas appear. New marketing campaigns launch. New trends emerge. Yet somehow this ancient powder remains. Not because it dominates headlines. Not because it receives celebrity endorsements. But because people continue talking about it. And perhaps that is the strongest argument in its favor. Not that it is perfect, not that it works under every circumstance, but that it has remained relevant despite thousands of years of technological progress. Very few products can make that claim. Still, if there is one lesson to take away from this entire story, it is this. Be skeptical of extremes. Be skeptical when someone claims Diatomaceous Earth solves every pest problem known to humanity. And be equally skeptical when someone dismisses it entirely without considering context. Reality usually exists somewhere in the middle. The most successful farmers understand this principle better than anyone. Agriculture is full of gray areas. Rarely are there perfect answers. Rarely are there universal solutions. Most decisions involve trade-offs, observation, adaptation, and continuous learning. The same mindset applies to pest management. What works for one operation may require modification for another. What succeeds in one environment may struggle elsewhere. And what helps control a minor infestation may not be sufficient for a severe outbreak. Understanding these realities is what separates practical knowledge from internet myths. And in many ways, that is what makes the story of Diatomaceous Earth so compelling. Because beneath all the marketing claims, debates, and controversies lies something much simpler. A reminder that not every useful solution is new. A reminder that ancient knowledge still has value. And a reminder that sometimes the most interesting discoveries are hiding in plain sight. For millions of years, the microscopic remains of tiny aquatic organisms rested beneath the earth. They survived changing climates, changing continents, and the rise and fall of civilizations. Then humans uncovered them, studied them, and eventually found ways to use them. Today, those same ancient fossils continue helping people protect feed supplies, manage pests, support livestock operations, and explore alternatives to conventional treatments. Not because they are magical, not because they are mysterious, but because they represent something increasingly rare in the modern world. A simple solution. And perhaps that is why interest in Diatomaceous Earth continues growing. In an age filled with complexity, people are often drawn toward simplicity. They want practical answers. They want affordable options. They want tools that have stood the test of time. And whether Diatomaceous Earth becomes part of someone's pest management strategy or not, its story offers an important lesson. Never assume the newest solution is automatically the best. Never assume the oldest solution is automatically outdated. And never stop asking questions. Because sometimes the most valuable discoveries begin with curiosity. A curious farmer looking for a better way to protect feed. A curious homeowner searching for alternatives. A curious livestock owner trying to keep animals healthy and comfortable. Curiosity has always driven progress, and it continues to drive it today. Which brings us back to the question that started this journey. Why do so many people still know so little about this ancient powder? Perhaps the answer is simpler than many believe. Most people are busy searching for the next big thing, the newest technology, the latest breakthrough, the product with the loudest advertising campaign. Meanwhile, some of the most fascinating solutions remain quietly waiting to be discovered, just as they always have. And that is exactly why stories like this matter. Because agriculture is filled with hidden knowledge, hidden innovations, hidden lessons, and hidden opportunities. Every farm has them. Every livestock operation has them. Every successful producer has learned them through experience. The challenge is finding them, learning them, and sharing them. That is what Herd and Harvest is all about. Exploring the world of livestock, farming, homesteading, animal production, agricultural innovation, and practical knowledge that often goes unnoticed by the average person. Because behind every successful farm is a story. Behind every livestock operation is a lesson. And behind every agricultural breakthrough is someone willing to ask questions and look deeper. If you enjoyed uncovering the truth about Diatomaceous Earth, then you're going to love what comes next. Because this is only the beginning. There are countless farming secrets, livestock strategies, agricultural innovations, and homestead techniques waiting to be explored. So if you're passionate about livestock, fascinated by agriculture, interested in homesteading, or simply curious about how the world of farming really works, make sure you subscribe to Herd and Harvest right now. Join a growing community of viewers who want more than surface-level information. People who want the stories behind the science, the truth behind the trends, and the knowledge behind successful farming. Don't just watch farming from a distance. Understand it. Don't just hear about livestock. Learn how it shapes the world around us. And don't miss the next episode, because the next hidden agricultural story might completely change the way you think about farming forever. Subscribe to Herd and Harvest. Turn on notifications and become part of the harvest, because the best farming stories are still ahead of us.